Here in Washington, we're known for our apples, and Seattle Cider Company is a truly local cidery based in SoDo. Seattle cider is made from fresh-pressed Washington apples, never from concentrate, and there's a new vivid light cider line with crisp flavors like tart apple, juicy pear, bright cherry, fresh peach, wild blueberry, and ripe plum. Those all sound really good. Find Seattle Cider on the web at seattlecidercompany.com to check out the cider lineup, find where Seattle Cider is sold, and view upcoming taproom events. Search for local bars, restaurants, and grocery stores that sell Seattle cider using the Cider Finder on their website. This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. Today on CityCast Seattle, we're talking about the best and worst places to cycle in Seattle, how cyclists became a force in city politics, and we're going to dig into some new bills the Washington Legislature is considering. Joining us to talk about bikes is a very special guest. We have Tom Fucoloro, founder of Seattle Bike Blog and author of Biking Uphill in the Rain. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, okay, it's customary for us to ask first-time guests this question, which is, what is your Seattle soapbox? Like, what do you always want to get on a soapbox about?
Oh, so many things.
Pick one.
Pick one. Okay. Umbrellas. Umbrellas are great. Everyone needs to get over their hate of umbrellas. I'm pro umbrella, and I think everyone in Seattle should use umbrellas. And the hatred of umbrellas is from people who don't spend enough time outside.
Yeah, show me that you're driving around without telling me that you're driving around. If you're anti-umbrella, I do feel like you have not had to walk a mile in the pouring rain.
And the great thing is you've got this great future ahead of you where you can use an umbrella and you'll go on this walk in the rain and you'll come home and you'll be completely dry. And you'll be like, wow, this has just changed my life. What have I been doing all these years? Why have I not been using an umbrella?
It's true. I think the only downside is I'm a short person and I always am cognizant of the fact that I could be poking a tall person's eye out with my umbrella. We also have creative producer Liam Billingham joining us. How you doing, Liam?
Jane, I'm doing fine, and I also like an umbrella, though I never carry one with me.
Well, if you are biking around town, I will say, obviously, an umbrella is not going to be of much use to you. That you got to do like full raincoat, full rain pants. So speaking of biking, Tom, you write Seattle Bike Blog. Clearly, you're a cyclist. When did you start biking? Like, what got you into cycling?
I biked as a kid all over the place. But then as an adult, I was living in Denver, and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my spouse, she was biking everywhere, and I wanted her to think I was cool.
Oh, you were like hashtag influence.
That's why I started playing guitar, is I wanted girls to think I was cool, so I can relate to this.
So I started biking with her places, and I quickly realized, like, my car was just sitting on the street collecting street sweeper parking tickets. I just realized one day, like, maybe I can make the leap and I don't actually need this thing anymore. And it was really scary because I grew up in the suburbs of St. Louis, Missouri, and the car was my tool of freedom. It was the way I got out of Crestwood, Missouri.
It's what you need when you're a 16, 17-year-old, right? Yeah, it's freedom.
It was the only way out. And so it was really scary, the idea of getting rid of this thing. I thought that I was losing so much. And I sold it to this guy I found on Craigslist for cash and hand wrote him a bill of sale and gave it to him. And as he turned the corner, I just like felt this like enormous like wave of relief. My shoulders just like got lightened, because it's like, I will never turn that key and hear a horrible sound that cost me $2,000 ever again. It will never happen.
I'm not gonna be bleeding money out of my car.
Do you own a car now?
I do not.
And it's been how long?
That was 2008.
And you have children?
Yeah, I have one kid. Wow. She's in second grade.
So she just goes everywhere with you on the bike?
Yep. Yeah, we have an electric cargo bike that she sits on the back of. That's what we do most of the time. And then she has her own bike, and she can... We train her up. So she can bike pretty far. She can bike up hills. And so she bikes with us when we can make that happen. And if we're going longer distances or to places that don't have like a safe child-friendly route, then we put her on the cargo bike and she rides along. Or if we're in a hurry, the cargo bike's much faster than her biking.
Speaking of a safe, child-friendly bike route, I know you recently did a little video exploring some of the new bike lanes in town. What are your ratings on best places to ride versus worst places to ride?
I mean, in a lot of ways, like downtown is almost the best place to ride now in Seattle.
What about it do you think makes it good?
Downtown has the most like connected network of completely separated bike lanes. And you can go along the waterfront now.
Right.
And the waterfront can connect to the Myrtle Edwards Park. It can connect down all the way to Alki if you want to keep going.
I did that the other weekend. Yeah, it was lovely.
You never leave a bike path or a bike lane. Like you never have to bike mixed with cars the entire way. It's unbelievable. Unimaginable not that long ago. Like this is all extremely recent developments. And, I think this probably is for someone who's new to biking will probably be the most like eye-opening experience for them because these are trips that they probably never would have considered by bike before. And if they give it a try, I think they'll have a good experience. Hop on a bike downtown and bike to Alki. I think you'll love it and you'll feel like a superhero. Talk about radicalizing experience. It's like, wow, maybe this is for me. It's that kind of thing. Because the goal here is to make bicycling almost boring, like normal. There are not unexpected things that pop up. Your blood doesn't get raised. You don't have adrenaline rushes. You don't white knuckle the handlebars. Like that's the goal. I'm just bike from here to there and nothing bad happened.
Okay, I would argue though that bike lane downtown by the aquarium, the new one, it's really nice in theory. It in practice is always kind of a harrowing experience for me. I feel like there's always such a mix of people on foot, on bike, on scooter, people crossing streets into the lanes. I don't think that it could be any better designed, honestly, unless you just had an entirely separate area that didn't mix with pedestrian traffic. But I have always been so stressed out around there. Like, I feel like I can't just concentrate on cycling. I'm just always like, oh God, am I going to crash into someone?
To sort of devil's advocate that, what it feels like you're talking about, Jen, and I could be wrong, is like the education of other people who are not biking around biking, right? To some extent, because
I don't think people are looking for bike lanes, especially because that area I think is so heavily used by folks who don't live here, who aren't familiar with the area and just like don't quite know that they're maybe should be looking out for people in other modes of transportation.
Look, this is a vast generalization, but I'll speak for myself. Because I grew up like in a small town outside of Boston. I think I viewed biking as like an off-road event. Like an event that you did where you're not necessarily having to deal with people. And it wasn't until I moved to like New York City proper that I started to understand like I need to pay attention to bike lanes. And I had plenty of and saw plenty of experiences of like bikers getting furious at pedestrians getting furious at driving. And I just think that like it's almost like there should be mandatory learning to bike in this country or something to like get people to understand it, because I think most people don't.
It's one of those things, again, like if someone just goes out and tries biking on their own, I think it will open up their eyes a little bit to why people do the things that they do on a bike. and also maybe like realize we're only asking for like the littlest sliver of patience here to make this all work. And, it's not asking too much here.
Right.
I think the waterfront you can't go fast there for sure. I know there's people who are frustrated that, they've got places to be and you got to go slow because people could walk in front of the path and it's very busy. But that's just the waterfront. I don't know. Like, I think people who, if you can just get in the mentality of like, I'm biking on the waterfront now, and just like go with the flow of whatever the waterfront has to offer you this day, it's generally, more likely to be positive.
It's a good approach to life, honestly. Clearly, I've made it clear that I don't love biking in that waterfront trail for various reasons. But in your explorations, what are the worst places to bike around town, Tom?
The city has, dramatically underinvested in bike infrastructure in South Seattle for decades. The north end got bike lanes and the south end didn't for a long time. That was the case. And it's still to this day the case that, there's no direct connection between downtown and Rainier Valley. Like there's only one flat direct road, and that's Rainier Avenue. And it is probably the worst place to ride a bike this side of Lake City Way.
It's horrifying.
And the city has for years kind of suggested, oh yes, we would love to do something like that, and then has proceeded to not actually address that issue at all. And I think we're getting to the point where that's the kind of thing that the city could tackle in the next few years. It's going to take a lot of political leadership, but it's on the list of things to do, is to come up with what are we going to do about this section of Rainier Avenue. Biking on Rainier is just not a good option, and all the other options are this, like insanely steep hills. And I don't mind biking up some hills, but like doing this and then looking over and seeing a perfectly flat street that you can't go on because it's too busy, there's too many cars and there's no bike lanes, is really frustrating experience.
That actually sounds
That is what I do. And because I will not ride on Rainier because I value my life. And it would be so nice if there were a more direct route, instead of being like, well, today's going to be a hill workout because I need to commute between two places where I cannot get away with going somewhere flat.
But also just imagine, like, what if you could just walk across Rainier and it was safe? It shouldn't be considered death-defying. You shouldn't feel endangered doing it. And asking for that from your city is not asking too much. So I think that's, part of this vision for Rainier.
It's a good approach to life, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm going to call my wife and tell her we're getting rid of the cars.
Bye, we're selling the car.
What? Yeah, maybe not yet.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about how we can push for more of that. We're going to talk about the role of cycling in local politics. Hey, Liam, do you have a backyard?
I have a side yard, Jane. Does that count?
Kind of. Do you have any fruit trees in your
We don't, unfortunately. I really wish we did.
Oh, well, I have a few apple trees in my backyard, and I just heard about this cool local nonprofit that harvests and shares thousands of pounds of fruit with neighbors, food banks, and community partners each year. It's called City Fruit, and if you're in Seattle and you have a fruit tree, you can actually donate that fruit.
Wow.
And if you want to support their work, memberships start at just a small monthly contribution. That membership directly supports a more sustainable food system here in Seattle. It helps keep urban fruit trees healthy, reduces waste, and expands equitable access to fresh local produce. And plus, you get exclusive perks like discounts on fruit tree care services, like pruning and pest management, discounts at plant nurseries, discounted cider press rentals, and special offers at local cideries. So if you want to join, you can go to cityfruit.org/membership. And if you want to donate your fruit, visit cityfruit.org and click Share Your Fruit to learn more. Tom, one of the parts of your book that really stuck with me was where you talk about your own, dare I call it, radicalization after talking with a survivor of a life-changing accident and attending a ride in honor of Shir Kung, who was killed riding on University Street downtown. I mean, I know you've been covering bike infrastructure and politics in our city for a long time, but what effect did those particular stories have on you?
I started writing the blog. So this is in 2009, biking around, and all the bike lanes would just sort of end at every intersection, and maybe like this little painted strip, next to like parked cars. So you had to like ride right on the inside line to avoid the parked car doors opening. Couldn't it be better than this? I thought it would be better than this. And so that's kind of why I started writing the blog, is from that perspective of like, hey, we should make our bike lanes better. But then people died. And, especially when Mike Wang died on Dexter, there was a very strong community response to that. Yeah. His workplace had a big response to that. And the story of his, he was just biking home to his family, really cut through a lot of the BS that had been taken over the airways. There's a war on cars, new radical bike riding mayor Mike McGinn is waging a war on cars, blah, blah, blah. And then this tragedy happens, and I think it's sort of undercut all of those arguments. And I think to Seattle's credit as a city culturally, I think people responded with compassion instead of fighting. And I felt like there's sort of this shift out there in the general air of how we talk about traffic collisions and traffic deaths and injuries after that. But there's also like, I personally shifted my mentality where I realized like, I've been thinking of this as something, oh, the city should do this so that it's like better for bikings, and then you realize, no, this is something we have to do. Like this is like a moral imperative that we have to fix this. We know how to fix it. We have the means to fix it. We have to do it. And it's not just we should do it. It's like, it became like a mission, and I guess something with more weight than that, than just let's make things a little better for biking. And so I think that's something that a lot of people go through. A lot of bike activists will start being like, oh, hey, I wish this bike lane by my street was like a little nicer, or like, and then they kind of start to understand the full weight of what it is they're working on. And you become radicalized, but I think in the appropriate way. And I think in some ways we've been radically desensitized as a society to the real pain and cost of traffic violence and injuries and deaths that happen. And finally deciding, you know what? I don't accept people dying on our streets as just the cost of doing business. Well, this is just what it's like in a city. I reject that entirely. And I believe that it can be a different way. And
so what do you think, like, as a driver, sometimes I will feel frustration, or I'll feel concern, I'll feel worry, I'll be driving and notice like, oh, I don't want to hit this person. But I think there is a tension that exists between drivers and cyclists.
The war on cars.
Right. Which like seems ridiculous to me. But I do wonder, like, what is it that you wish drivers knew about cycling in the city?
People get really frustrated about the idea of why would you be in the middle of the lane? Well, if you ride a bike for, any sort of distance on city streets, you will immediately understand why that person's in the middle of the lane. You have to stay out of the way of parked car doors, because they can just open without any warning. And if they hit you, you could fall into traffic. I mean, people die that way. And, I guess my dream would be that, the next time someone is, driving behind someone on a bike and they can't pass them and they're getting frustrated, that their frustration is not at the person biking, but their frustration is, why is there not a bike lane?
Right.
I would like us all to agree that like we have a solution to this problem. It's the bike lane.
I think people are just so used to having the open road, right? Like that an obstacle frustrates people. And okay, so I am curious to hear your thoughts about if this might be changing. So in this recent election, I know that the Cascade Bike Club had endorsed Bruce Harrell, which many in the bike community thought was an interesting move. I guess I'm curious, like, what led to that endorsement? What do you think this means for the future of the cycling community in politics now that Wilson is in office?
Yeah. I mean, so Seattle Bike Blog endorsed Katie Wilson. I even held a campaign rally to support her campaign on Lake Washington Boulevard in response to the Mayor Harrell cutting a bunch of the safety investments that had been planned for that street. And that was an issue that it seemed like, well, this is a huge opening to showcase what exactly is the problem with that mayor's approach. And yeah, I think Cascade is an organization that has found mainstream political success. They are very good at getting at the table, no matter who's in charge of that table, and making sure that they have a seat there. And we have, to their credit, we have gained a lot from that approach. Bruce Harrell, there was no reason why he would have had to answer to bike people. And yet, I think Cascade was able to convince him, hey, you have this transportation levy you got to get passed, and you have to pass this. Like, this is a political must, and the bike people are the way you're going to do that. If you have something the bike people aren't in favor of, like, they can kill this thing. I think they sort of made themselves allies. And we got a ton of bike lanes built under Bruce Harrell, even though it's not an issue he cares about at all personally. I've never seen him on a bike. He never mentions the bicycle.
I've never heard Harold mention bikes. Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, we got a ton of bike lanes built during his time. And, a lot of that, it's because Cascade was able to be effective with them. And I think that's why they endorsed him. Their strategy is, hey, if we have an incumbent who's doing what we want, then we're just going to support that incumbent.
Yeah.
And that's the way that they do their calculations. I think it was a little short-sighted. I think we had this special moment. I think Katie Wilson could represent, this could be a transitional moment for the city as a whole, not just for bicycling, but I wanted bicycling to be on the correct side of that, and be part of that movement. I really worry about what would have happened if Katie Wilson came up like a few votes short. The bike scene would be in turmoil right now, I think.
What do you think the turmoil would be?
Well, people would be so livid at Cascade. They didn't just endorse Harrow. They sent out mailers. They paid
their
tens of
logo was
thousands of
on the
dollars.
mailers.
And they sent mailers to Seattle voters saying, vote for Bruce Harrell. He's the bike champion. If the vote was close enough, every movement would be tearing each other apart. Not just bicycling, because there's so many people who like, your endorsement actually turned it, right? Because the closer it gets, the margin gets, the more like you can point to like individuals. Like it was you. You
played a part here. Yes.
So I'm glad that that's not how it turned out. So Mayor Wilson has included Cascade executive director on the transition team. So I think she's not looking to grind that axe, and the Cascade has accepted and has said glowing things about her. So
we'll see what happens. Yeah.
They're hoping to put that all behind, I guess. And
so the other little bit of political news that is happening around bikes right now is I feel like we've seen the rise of e-bikes around here over the last decade. And I don't know, I feel like we're kind of reaching this turning point with e-bikes right now. Like news came at the end of last year that Rad, which was, a huge e-bike company that got their start here, is filing for bankruptcy. It's not really clear yet what their fate is. And now there's a Washington bill that is trying to really clarify this line between an e-bike and an e-moto. Tom, I know you've reported on this a little bit. What is going on with that? And why is it important to clarify that line?
As electric motor and electric battery tech has become cheaper and more powerful, that's opened up this whole world of what are essentially like electric motorcycles. But motorcycles are pretty heavily regulated as an object. And if you want to ride them on Washington streets, there's all these like hoops you have to jump through. You have to get it licensed, which means you have to show that it has all the proper safety features that are required as written in state law, mirrors and proper lights. And you also have to get a motorcycle license yourself, a motorcycle endorsement on your driver's license in order to drive them. So to get around all that, companies have figured out that they can sell these things as e-bikes because they have a mode, or maybe they ship by default with the limits designated under state law for an e-bike, which is the motor can't propel it beyond 20 miles per hour, and it can only go up to 750 watts of power output. So they can give you a motorcycle and have a mode that just limits through software the ability to exceed those limits, that bit, and say, hey, it's an e-bike. And then it can be very trivial for the user to override those limits. And now they have a motorcycle that's not legal. It's not registered as a motorcycle, but it's also not a legal e-bike. But people are biking them around 20 miles per hour.
Can I complain here about this? So I will be at the playground with my kids, and there'll be a kid on one of these bikes. And a dad recently went up to one. He's like, how fast does that thing go? And the kid was like 28 miles per hour. And you're like, you're 11. Why are you, what? And you're I kicked them out. I was like,
these days and their motorcycle
you
bikes.
You can't ride this in a playground with a 3-year-old riding a scooter. Get out of here.
Yeah. And like, there's this issue where parents are confused and can think that they're buying their child an e-bike, and what they've actually done is bought their child an electric motorcycle, something that they would never buy them, right? Because the child will quickly figure out how to override those limits. That's all it
bike
takes.
specs are already so confusing if you have not been like mired in them for years. So I could definitely see that being difficult if you're just like trying to buy your kid a bike as a gift or something. Like you might not know.
I'm
exactly
going to push back on that.
No?
Because I mean, of course this stuff is confusing, but it's like, if you're going to hand your kid a tool, like that's something I think you learn to anticipate. Like we bought our kids walkie-talkies this year. And I was like, ooh, these walkie-talkies are too complicated for my 3-year-old. Like he's not like equipped to handle it. And I think the same thing extends to like these items, right? Like you got to do a little bit of an investigation and education on this stuff, especially like something that could hurt somebody. So I don't have sympathy for parents that don't understand that at all.
So basically, if this bill does pass, Tom, what ends up happening?
Well, it aims to clarify the difference between e-bikes and an e-moto, and it specifically defines what is not an e-bike, and it includes things like power limits that are easily overriddenable by the user, and it clarifies that pegs are not pedals.
Gotcha.
Because the law says that an e-bike, it's only an e-bike if it has working pedals.
I see.
But some people call these pedals, even though they're not pegs.
Quite.
So it clarifies, no, that doesn't count. They actually have to be the kind that turn.
Interesting.
But then it also tasks the Department of Licensing with convening this like work group to tackle some larger questions, which I think could come up in future legislative sessions or could just turn into agency policies around how are we going to enforce this law, and also how are we need to assess the state of marketing and the potential for deceptive marketing to determine if we need to figure out how to crack down on deceptive marketing of these devices.
So it's probably going to be another few years that we are likely to see.
I'm yelling at kids in playgrounds.
Yeah, or that, you're seeing someone whiz by you on the BERT going like 30.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing is, it would be interesting if we like encourage this sector, which is sort of missing from our transportation system. Like people used to go to Europe and they see Vespas everywhere, and they'd be like, why don't or like Vietnam.
And then everyone would like come home and get a cute little Vespa, and then it gets stolen.
Maybe we figure out how do we embrace this sector more seriously. But there's clearly the demand now coming from this e-moto crew. Like there's a lot of people who are very into this. Like this is what they do. They spend all day exploring the city on their illegal motorcycle.
It could be like the new bike. Okay, I feel like someone's got to start the Seattle e-moto blog now.
Absolutely.
Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, go pick up Biking Uphill in the Rain. Follow Seattle Bike Blog. And when we come back, we're going to do a rundown of other Washington bills worth knowing about. We've got bills galore this legislative session. Sam J. Leeds is joining Liam and me to discuss a few new bills. Thanks for joining us, Sam.
Hi, Jane. Hi, Liam.
Liam, I know you've got one for us.
Yes, I do.
Kind of struck your fancy.
First of all, I think Bills Galore is a great name for a musical. So when we get off this call, let's start to write that together. My bill that I'm very happy about is HB 1175, legalize neighborhood corner stores and cafes statewide. It passed the House on Thursday. So this allows neighborhood cafes and stores in any zone allowing residential uses as long as the cafe offers food alongside booze and that the stores don't sell nicotine and tobacco products. This just feels like, hey, let's have more bodegas in the city of Seattle. I mean, sign me up.
Would they be called bodegas here, though?
What would they be called? Corner stores? They would just be corner stores?
I think
and cafes.
Yeah.
And cafes. Good point. Yeah, that's literally what it says. I view where I want to live as how long does it take me to walk to get a coffee?
Yes.
Or a beer, and also on the way home buy like a bag of chips.
Yes.
And something for dinner when I forgot to plan dinner beforehand. So this is like great. And I think that this like is really good for like local business, small business, and development, because like I love going to like little stores owned by regular people.
Same. I love to know the person who owns the store.
Oh, yeah.
Like, man, when I lived in California, we lived right next to a farm, and it was really lovely getting to walk past the farm stand on my way home every night, pick up like a little tomato or a little onion to like make my dinner with. I really enjoyed that experience and would love to replicate that in a way that is closer to my house now. All right, Sam, I know you brought a bill as well.
I did. So this one is HB 2112. And it is an age, gate, and verification law. Less exciting than Liam's neighborhood cafes, but also consequential. So basically what it does is it enforces any commercial business that is selling adult content on the internet to use age verification before someone is allowed to access that content. And that usually means uploading an ID and a credit card to the site.
Wait, what?
Yes.
I'm not giving you guys anything.
Right.
Panopticon.
Well, currently, I know sometimes if you go onto the website of like a brewery or something, it'll be like, are you 21? And you click yes or no. Or sometimes it even goes as far as to ask you your birth date. In which case, I always say I'm born on April 20th, 1969.
Nice.
But this is different. So they're actually having you, like, what would you do? Like, take a picture of your ID and upload it?
Correct. Yeah. So the concerns around this are that this data is super vulnerable to being leaked or breached. And this has happened in many states in the US already. About half of the states in the US already have some kind of age verification law in place. And we've seen major breaches and leaks happen to many, many people's information, which unfortunately sort of feels like the reality of living today. Like you're constantly getting a notification that your data was leaked somewhere. But this is sort of dangerous in a couple of specific ways. One of those things being that the law is written in a way where it's sort of that age-old, like, I know porn when I see it. It leaves the sort of decision around what is adult content and what is not appropriate for children up to like a common sense standard, which opens the door to a lot of different
common sense.
Right. It opens the door to the government making a lot of decisions about what is appropriate for children. And we've already seen cases where this is being used against, for example, trans people being able to share information with each other about where to get binders or how to find a doctor that will actually be knowledgeable about your medical needs. This information could be seen as like explicit or not appropriate for children in a way that shuts down all communication.
It can be weaponized.
It's definitely a bill that can be weaponized. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which does really amazing work around sort of understanding freedom of information on the internet.
Incredible organization, yeah.
They've put out warnings about this particular kind of law and have created a whole toolkit for people to sort of understand better, like what these laws are wrapping themselves in terms of, you know, legitimate concern for children's safety versus what they're opening the door to around surveillance and censorship.
So this is part of a larger nationwide effort to make this reality.
Yes.
I mean, my question is what is the value of passing this at the state level rather than the federal level?
I imagine it's similar to the way that cannabis is handled, right? Like it's state by state, and the vendors in each state have to follow the laws of that state. I think similarly, distribution of adult content is sort of handled at a state by state basis. But the issue with that is that VPNs can be used to kind of, they exist, exactly. So like anyone can say, oh, I'm actually in this other state and get around it. So if it's actually about concern for children's safety and kids are like more knowledgeable than ever about how to use the internet.
I was going to say, like, kids are probably more likely than anyone over the age of 45 to know how to use a VPN. I hope my parents aren't listening, but I remember being 11 and figuring out how to turn off all of the AOL parental controls they'd set for me.
Same.
So, you know, it's like an arms race always about what internet the kids are on.
I hope your parents aren't like, wait a minute, you know, this many years later.
I knew your password, guys. Okay.
It was Jane's parents.
We love Jane.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that was not the password. So I also saw a bill that is up for discussion. Currently, it is SB 5574, which would include teaching about Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders history in school. So the bill says that Washington is the proud home of the 7th largest Asian American population and the 3rd largest Pacific Islander population in the nation. Yet, we have seen an increase in hate crimes and violence against those groups.
Mm-hmm.
So this bill would just make social studies learning standards include learning about the contributions of these groups. It says in particular that it would include education about individual members of that group in government, the arts, humanities, and sciences, and the contributions of these groups to the economic, cultural, social, and political development of the U.S. Overall, this sounds really nice. I gotta say, like, reading the bill, I felt a little touched. I wish that I had learned more about the history of Asian Americans when I was in school. I didn't learn much of that until I was fully in my 20s. I do wonder what will end up being part of that curriculum. I imagine, you know, schools will have some say in what they choose to include, but I feel like some of the education I got in social studies class, especially about race issues, was very much like, mission accomplished, guys, we did it. Like the problems are solved and these folks did great things. But you don't necessarily get a lot of background about the complicated bits of it and how it relates to other political issues of the day. So I'll be curious to see how it's rolled out. But overall, I mean, hard to be against this as an Asian American.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that we have a range of histories that are taught in public schools, and particularly in the state of Washington, where, you know, we have really mistreated various groups of people, but in you know, the purview of this bill, Japanese internment and the way that it affected Washington in particular feels like, you know, something that is important to teach, both from like this was done, but also what we were talking about recently, like the ways that communities resisted or created solidarity between each other. It just, it seems like a great thing for kids to get to learn about and hopefully see more role models and like people who represent them.
More field trips to the Wing Luke.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, ultimately, I think in the long term, just helps kids contextualize in a positive way the way they exist in the world, I hope.
Yeah. Just getting that early exposure to ideas that really shape your worldview, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with each of those bills as the legislative session moves forward. But that's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. Sam J. Leeds, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jane.
And Liam Billingham, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
I'm your host, Jane C. Hu. And listeners, thanks for joining us today. We want to hear from you. Send your news tips, your questions, your hot goss, your thoughts about Seattle's best and worst bike lanes by sending an email to seattle@citycast.fm. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail on the CityCast hotline at 206-880-3931. If you're enjoying the podcast, follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Leave us a little review that's really helpful, or just tell your friends. And if you want to see our beautiful faces, full episodes are available on YouTube. You can get more local news and events delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter. You can go to seattle.citycast.fm to subscribe to that. Until next time, see you, Seattle.